very good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you're coming from. Thank you so much for showing up early in the morning, like most of you people from. So a very warm welcome to this workshop. So I'm gonna just start sharing my screen. Do let me know if you see that. So I'm doing that quickly. Yeah, can you see my screen? Anyone? Awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So today's workshop is going to be all about usability testing. So there are multiple topics that we're gonna discuss. So before we get into it, let me just give a small introduction about me. Who am I? What do I do? So basically, I'm Anirudh Palaskar. I'm a lead product designer at Rebel Foods, which is India's first cloud kitchen unicorn. So I take care of all the B2C products over here. For example, all the consumer facing products. So I have more than 7.5 years of core design experience. I'm a self-taught engineer turned into a designer. I was a developer for a couple of years. So I have strong technical background, which eventually helped me differentiate myself from rest of the designers in today's time. So that was about some of the things that I do. So here's an overall gesture things about myself that I have more than 7.5 years of design experience. I have designed and developed together with the developers more than 8 Android and iOS apps. At this very moment, there's an app called Eat Shore, which is like trending on iOS also and Android. Then I've also worked on websites for major of the Indian companies and startups. So having more than 20 websites done, having more than 2 million active users at every single day. So that's some of my area of core expertise where, making sure that the end-to-end product is delivered right on time with specific features and, increasing and improving all the funnels via which users can achieve the task in simple amount of time. Going forward, also in 2021, I was among the top 10 mentors in India. In January 2022, I was among the top 1% mentor in global at ADP list. I also take a lot of sessions here and there because I personally like to share my knowledge because I come from a background where mentors were not available in 2014 and 15. So I would randomly message everybody on LinkedIn and Twitter saying that, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And getting disappointed by not getting any messages. So I'm just trying to be the mentor I wanted few years back. So here's few of my steps. I recently wanted to contribute to a larger audience. So I also started my YouTube channel in January, which hit something like 20,000 views in first 28 days, which was like quite overwhelming for me because a lot of people got good learning from that workshop and all the sessions that I've uploaded over there. So do check out that. So today's session is going to be all about usability testing. If you guys have any questions, you can raise your hand. Luis can help me out. I can stop in the middle and also take up your questions also. So going forward, what are we learning today? So we're going to talk about what is usability testing. We're going to talk about what is the need of the usability testing. We're going to see how to conduct an usability testing end to end, right from starting to an end. We're going to talk about some important metrics to captures. We're going to talk about all the documentation and templates that we need. So if you're someone who is just getting started with your UX career, it's okay. I'm going to start it from scratch. If you're somebody who is in middle of your career, want to excel your career, this is a chance for you to differentiate yourself with one of the most awaited or one of the most used validation technique in market right now. So before getting started with usability testing right now, let me just give you a brief or a small introduction about some stats that I have gathered out. So right from the dot-com bubble back in 1995, okay, so the digital adoption has been widely taken up all the people across the globe. For example, as of January 2021, there are more than 4.66 billion active users on internet, which is 95%, 59% of the world population. And among them, 92% of the people, which is 4 billion people, access this internet via smartphone or a mobile. So you can imagine there are so many people using internet and web application. So the outcome of this was what happened was people started relying on digital ecosystem, digital product for their lifestyle, their education, their entertainment. And eventually this gave a rise to a competitive market where everybody wanted to be different than others. Everybody wanted to differentiate themselves as a company. And how do we do that? So the question over here was that all the users who were using a specific product, and if they could not get a proper optimal experience, they would quickly move to some other product because there are so many options available. There are so many competitors. So as a user, I would not stand by to some bad experience because I have so many options. So this gave rise to something called designing an optimal solution for all the users, because a user won't give you second chance for you to reappear them and tell them, hey, my product is doing good. So that is why every time you design something, you need to make sure that you're designed for the right audience, for the right people. And like, how do we do that? That's a huge question, right? Yes, to solve that question, there's this beautiful method called usability testing in a modern era, which we can do to answer all your questions. Am I solving the problem statement for right user? Am I giving an optimal solution? Is it working for XYZ user? Is the solution optimal? Are they able to do all their tasks on time? Is it easy? Is the cognitive load very high, or people are using it for acquisition, for retention? So everything can be answered by a simple method called usability testing. So to go ahead with that, I'm going to talk about the definition. What is usability testing? Let's just quickly see the definition which is available on internet. Usability testing is a method that is used to understand and measure how easy or user-friendly your product is, which is simply done by allowing the products in its early stage or push to development with the user, which simply means there is a product A which you're designing right now. Before you ship it to the users, make sure that you validate the idea with the users, let them use the product in its early stage, and try to identify all the issues that are present in your product so that you can revamp, reiterate, and re-optimize your solution before you're actually pushing to the market or making it live on a Google Play or Android iOS app stores. So that is what usability testing is all about, allowing your user to test your product before making it live to the market. And why do we do that? We know if we actually make a product live and put it in the market, there is so much of time and cost that we bear. There are so many resources that we implement. There are development costs, design costs, marketing costs, so many costs involved. But if you're not aware that you're solving the right problem for right people, and you still go ahead and like make the product live, and then you got to know users are not using it, you're having a huge loss for your company. So that is why it is very important. That's why it is written out over here that it is simply done by allowing user to use your product in your early stage. And that is why I personally believe. So going forward, as a major outcome of usability testing, we got to understand that whether this product is useful for the users or not, findable or not. Is the user coming on homepage? The navigation is easy or not? If I want to go from part A to part B, can I do it quickly? Accessible or not? Is the contrast ratio, the height, the width, the text are easy to read? If there are color when people, is there taken care of? Accessibility issues are taken care of or not? Usable, can I use it quickly at any given moment, or I have to go through multiple steps before using the actual product? Is it desirable or not? Because at any given moment, if you have a product, the success of your product is sometimes measured by the cost of acquisition versus retention. So if you're spending $5 to $7 to acquire a user on your product, but the retention ratio is very low, which means user would come to your product but uninstall within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 1 day. So the retention is very low. But if the retention is very high, which indirectly tells you that your product is doing very good, it is desirable by the users and they're using it. So that is why user retention and acquisitions are two important factors. As a user designer, we should keep in mind going forward. So I hope we are pretty clear with the definition. Anyone, any questions till now? Any difference I can make? Speak slow, speak fast, anything? Awesome, awesome. I can see a few heads nodding and smile on your face. Thank you so much. Thank you. So let's go ahead and talk about why do we actually need usability testing. I like this meme so that we can have a light conversation over here. So basically, we just discussed that there are like thousands and billions of users who are using the products, and if you don't give an optimal solution, they will move to some other product or other company. Yeah, pretty simple. But let me also go ahead and talk some realistic fact over here. So let us take an example or an illustration. So there's a company, maybe yours, mine, or Louis' company, or maybe we turn out this community into a larger company. So maybe as a company, what do we want to do? We make few products, and what are our wishes? Our wishes are to solve user problems and make something that user will love to use. At the end of the day, user will like, oh, this is something that I want to do it. But this is a very simple and generic scenario. As a company, what do? You make product. Your aim is to make sure to solve problem and user would love to use your product. But how do you actually know that you're going in the right direction? If you're making a dating app, you're making an OTT platform, you're making an edtech education product, how are you making sure that you're solving right problem statement and right user to achieve that goal which you have in a longer run? A simple goal can be to acquire 10,000 users in 1 month, or have a 5 million downloads in next few months. That can be one of my end goal as a company. So how do you know that you're going in the very right direction? which is can be simply done by doing usability testing. Understanding the user behavior with your product. Just give this product to your users, your target audience, and let them use and see and observe what they are doing. Find out early stage issue. Whatever problems that you're facing in your product right now, identify, note it down. That is the whole thing we're going to learn today. Reiterate, re-optimize the solution. Okay, that person, that persona was facing some issue. He or she was not able to go from this step to that step. Let us note it down. 10,000 other people or 20 other people were facing same issue. Oh, this is something that we need to identify. So I will write it out somewhere. So I will reiterate, re-optimize the solution. Save development cost. Like I told you, to design a product is quite not that easy, but it's simple as compared to development cost. I would just do it digitally and my product is ready. But the developer will have to do back end, front end, API cost, AWS cost, Amazon Web Server cost, testing cost, QA cost. There is something called UAT, user acceptance testing. So the process is very huge in order to push from a design to a live product. So that much amount of cost will be wasted if you don't do your validation or don't do your usability testing. And we don't want to do that. We are smart UX designer. So what are we going to do? We're going to do usability testing. So reduce the product failure chances. This is one of the important thing that we all need to understand, that if you don't actually talk to users, if you don't validate your solution, you are making something that nobody wants to use. You are just making something which you think it's a good idea, but not the users. So that is why if you do your usability testing and validation, you're reducing the chances of your product failure. And that's what we want to do, right? Eventually, there's a huge competitive market. We don't want to go in a random places because we don't have huge amount of money. Even if we have it, let's just save and put it into party rather than just throwing out to development cost. So that is why we need usability testing. Let's go to a simple solution. What did I say in the past 10 minutes? Simply, long story cut short, usability testing allows you to understand whether you are actually fulfilling or making sure that everything that a user wants to do is achievable by your product. Example, task. A user wants to perform a grocery buying task. Is my user able to do that task without any cognitive load, without any learning, within given amount of time? If yes, awesome. If not, you're facing an issue, and that issue can be identified in usability testing. Let's go ahead. There are some myth busters. Okay, so let's just talk about that also before we talk about usability testing. Let's run an UT, but when? So running an usability, when do I run my usability? I did the design, I did the development. Now development is ongoing. As a designer, I don't have any work. Can I do the usability testing? No. The answer over here is no. The actual cycle of a product design is, first of all, ideation phase, research phase and understanding phase, solution phase. And once your solution is done, then your validation phase, then your reiteration phase, then your development phase, and then your life phase. So once you're done with the designing, don't jump to development, do a validation over there. So before pushing it to development, validation should be done. So when do we do that? The moment you have completed the solution and it is verified by all the stakeholders, do a validation testing. And once all the stakeholders and users are comfortable, hey, this is what I wanted, this is what I'm waiting for, then you can push it to development so that the complete life cycle is optimized. So if you're so you have pushed your development without validation, the developer is doing his job 24/7. And then you identified the user is saying, hey, this has issues over there. What do I do? I can't stop developer and say, hey, just cancel out everything and start again. So that is why before pushing to development, make sure that validation is done. Next question. Shh, let's just do it internally. I have seen it with a lot of people. They would say, let's just do it internally, man. Why did you test my product? Let me test your product. Let's just do it. That is not how it works. If I have a product in my mobile, I am designing it for an end user, and that end user is a target audience, a power users, or a customer. Every customer, every target audience, every power users has a different mental model. Not everybody wants to order food in 5 minutes. Not everybody wants to wait 20 minutes to decide what to order. Everybody behave differently at different situation and different convenience. So that is why you can't make a shoe that fits all the sizes. So you can't do it internally because it's your product. You know the flow entire, and you just gonna be like step one, step two, step three, step four, and be like, hey, I completed the complete task in 4 seconds. That is because, buddy, you know the entire flow, and that's why we don't want to do it internally. Go ahead and identify your target audience and test with them. Because at the end of the day, you're not the one whom the revenue is going to come, it's going to come from the users. And you're not the one for whom I'm solving the problem statement, I'm solving it for my end users. So never do it internally. If you're a junior and your stakeholders or your CEO is saying that, say, sir, I can't do that. That is not the purpose of usability testing. If you want to share your views, let's have an internal design critic round. So that is what you do, design critic round. The stakeholder will say, I don't like this, just change it. You can do that. But you can't say it's an usability testing. A/B was state heuristic evaluation. Now, a lot of people say there is usability testing, there is A/B testing, there is heuristic evaluation. Now, what is this? So let me just explain you very quickly. Usability testing we were talking about, it's nothing but the entire process that we're going to discuss. A/B testing is basically when you're confused between you and your designer or your stakeholders, saying that, hey, this is not an optimal solution. I think this is optimal solution. And you're like, no, I have more experience. This is optimal solution. So you fight, no, I am right, I am right. You don't have to do that. You need to work as a team, collaborative manner. So the best way to analyze and overcome the situation is that saying, hey, I do respect your thing, but I personally believe that this is the right solution because of my past experience and all the learnings that I have. So the product manager would say, even I have past learnings and all my experience, this is right. So to end up that conversation, you can say, let's just do an A/B testing. Let's carry out 5 users and give them both the solution, option 1 and option B, and let them select which is more efficient and which is very good. Because we can't do it between you and me, right? We are not the end user. Our target audience are end user. So once we get an outcome of that, that is something called A/B testing. It is not part of usability testing. A/B testing is basically done to make sure which solution is better than the existing solution, and existing solution need to be validated first. So if you haven't validated this solution, you can't say this is better or that is better. None of it is better because you haven't done any usability testing on it. So in order to do an A/B testing, make sure that the existing solution is validated first. Going forward, what is HE? HE basically stands for heuristic evaluation, which is done at the end of the product or while you're redesigning a product. Heuristic evaluation is simple, it's just a design audit to identify all the existing issue in a product that is already developed. Now you did the usability testing, you did the development, now the product is live. Even now there are some issues. So what do? I can again go ahead and do a usability testing with the user. So I will hire somebody who an usability expert or a user expert or maybe a design leader who's having more than 7.8, 9, 10 years of experience. He will run an heuristic evaluation, which are 10 principles. One of the principle is that user control, getting out of the error code, making sure that the status of the system is over there. You can Google it out. There are 10 pre-written principles. You just need to cross-verify. So that is why these are 3 different methods, and they are used for different purposes. You can't be confused between that. So let's just stick to usability testing. Let's go ahead. Any questions, anything for now? Let me quickly have a glass of water. Any question, guys? Awesome, awesome. His smiling faces is giving me more confidence. So keep on smiling. Thank you, thank you. So let's go ahead. Now, this is the best part, okay? Like, this is the best part. And let me give you a heads up, it's going to be quite complicated, going to be quite overwhelming, but we cannot do it together. That's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and talk about how to conduct an usability testing. So, first important step to conduct an usability testing is plan the complete roadmap. Now, what do we mean by roadmap? Let me give you a small background history. So right now I'm making a dating app where I would want to, just ask 2 people to connect together and chat. That is my product, simple product. Or I'm making an online cab booking application, a simple product. So I want to test a entire flow with some users. That is basic. Now, how do I plan the usability roadmap? I need to make sure that I define all the goals, scenario, cohort, prototype. Too many jargons, I don't know what is that. I'm here to say that. So scenarios are basically all the tasks that the user would want to perform. So I would say, hey, Anirudh, this is an application, this is my product. Let's say you want to go from your home to your office place and you are in a very hurry. You would want to book a cab online. How would you do that? Here's my product, just use it. That is scenario number 1. I would want to test that can you do the payment within 5 seconds or 4 seconds? I would say, let us assume, Anirudh, that now that you have recently booked an cab and reached your destination, you would want to make the payment. Can you do that? Here's my app, do it. So I am dividing my complete solution, my end-to-end product, into multiple scenarios. Some of the basic buckets are pre-order, post-order, payment, checking, checkout, tracking, login, sign up. Every place where conversion is happening, where user is moving from one point to another, that is the important scenarios that you want to cover. Maybe right now I don't want to know if the login page is very intuitive or very specific to the user. But yeah, booking the entire cab system is something that I would want to test. I don't want to test on my logging system right now. So my scenario would not talk about, hey, you are want to book a cab and you can't log in. Let's just try to log in. That not going to be my priority right now. So that's why you need to make the prioritization in terms of scenario. User cohort. Now what happens about user cohort is that, like I told you, there are multiple personas. You need to make sure that you hire your users accordingly. I'm going to discuss this in very details going forward. Create the prototype, end-to-end prototype of your product. That can be done in Figma, Marvel app, and whatever the app you want to do it, Protopie or anything, principal app, whatever you're comfortable with, anything that can be given to the users and they can use it and share their experience. Then let's go ahead. User recruitment. Now that I know there is an application which I need to test an end-to-end booking flow app and Uber, I have written down all the scenarios, I have written down all the user cohort, I have the prototype, I have the script. Now user recruitment. A lot of time the user recruitment and planning can happen parallelly, because if we have a huge team, so somebody is going to take care of the user recruitment, somebody is going to do all the planning and script writing. So user recruitment, you will always have to focus on two important factors first, which would be your power users and your target audience. Now, what is power users and target audience? So target audience can be anyone who is from 18 age to 45 age, living in metro cities, can use my product. So they are my target audience. But power users are specifically that people who you intend to make this product for. I know this can lead to some mental biases, but definitely there are some people who you want should use your product. If your product is failing for everybody, you would not want that this product should fail for your power users. So power users are very specific target audience which you would want your product to make for, and target audience are the generic people to whom you can reach out to, because you can't make an app that can used by a 5-year old person and same can be used by 75-old person. You can't literally fit everybody. So but you can say, as a human, all the human beings can use my spoon or something like that, but people with this mental disability should use this product. If they are not able to use it, my product is a failure. So power users are very specific and important. New users, definitely. If power users can going forward can be redefined as somebody who is already using my product. So I can call them for my usability testing. Hey, now that you have already some experience in this domain, I am making a product in existing domain. Would you want to spare some time? If okay, then go ahead. And new users are someone who do not have any domain knowledge about your product. Maybe I would want to bring someone who do not know anything about cab booking or a digital product. So we'll call them and then take an interview with them also, so that I understand if people are seeing it for the very first time, how are they perceiving it? Is the learning curve very high? Is the cognitive load very high? So that's why I would make sure that I would call new users also. Step number 3, take the entire session. I'm going to show all the documentation. This is just an overview. So you're done with the planning, your users are ready. Just go ahead and take the session. How do we take this session? We're going to see right away. So take this session, capture the overall intent and the feedback of the users. So a session can be taken by two ways. Can be a moderate session. We are sitting one-on-one in your office in a physical space. But due to COVID and lockdown, we do a lot of user testing on some other products. For example, userzoom.com, usertesting.com. There's new products coming out there. So we do on that. You can also do it on Google Meets. You can do it on Zoom. The person can go on video call. You can share a link to them for a prototype and then give them scenario and then they can do it. So there are multiple ways to do that. We'll dig into it. And step number 4 would be iterate and optimize the solution so that that can be pushed to the developer. So what you did, you have a product booking A to B. You made all the scenario, you have the users, you took the session, you understood there are some issues, you reiterated the solution, and then you pushed the developer. Now that is where there's a confetti blast, because congratulations, you're making something that user would want to use. So let me go ahead and talk about some documentation. We're gonna dig into this. How do we do that? So when we talk about planning, let me show you. So this is something as overall planning of the roadmap. For example, plan the roadmap, define the scenario, link the prototype, user recruitment, creating onboard, scripting. I'm going to talk about everything in detail, so don't worry if anything is overwhelming. Talk about SUS, what is SUS, what is survey dog. I'm going to talk about that also. So if you see, it's an overall planning. The timelines is over here, everything is given over there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put all the owners and the stakeholders that this is the task should be taken care of the design team. For example, there is something called user recruitment should be taken care by the product management team or the third party vendor. I don't want to hire people right now. I can give it to somebody else to do it for me. There is something called script writing. Why don't the UX design team or a UX copywriter do it for me? So if you see, I have a status tracking over here for everything that I'm doing right now. It's in hold, it's in progress, it's not done, it's incomplete, whatever it is. All the times are given over here, all the owners are given over here, all the descriptions is given here, and all the thing is given over here upfront. So when you talk about defined a scenario, so let's just say we understood that right now this is something that we would want to see with a top view or a bird eye view, where we talk about this is everything that I'm going to do for my usability testing. That's all. These are the number of steps I'm going to do. So defining a scenario, let me give an example of how do you define a scenario. So once you have a planning over here, this is your main planning. That flow number one, flow number two, whatever your flow is, I'm just giving it a demo name over here. So flow number one, feature number one will be tested by target audience, will be tested by new user, will be tested by power users. So I'm deciding number of flow, like I told you, end-to-end booking flow, payment flow, or a login flow. So I want login flow to be taken care by some other user, power user should focus on something end-to-end booking part over here. Then we would have users flow and then going forward. And then prioritization of the task. If you have the larger picture, you can go ahead and talk to the stakeholder saying that, hey, do we need to cover everything? Because as a UX designer, I think this is something that we need to do. Then the stakeholder will say we don't have time, enough time or less time. Then you can prioritize the overall testing. So as I said, flow number three is yes, high priority. Flow number five, six, and seven is high priority. Then defining the scenarios. So there are multiple scenarios that I've defined over here, which is irrelevant to you right now. So I'm going to give you some demo examples. So a scenario can be, like I told you that, hey, you are moving from point A to point B. You are in a hurry. You need to book a cab. How would you do that? Similarly, if I'm talking about a demo example, it's a group ordering flow. So the scenario over here is you are hosting a virtual party and wish to create a group order on it. So invite your friends and create a group order. How would you do that? There's a prototype to it. So he would go ahead and do the same on the prototype. So similarly, we need to create multiple scenarios. Going forward, when you talk about user recruitment, you need to make sure that you have quick script and scenarios written for everybody. So a general, this is a demo one. I'll tell you how does a general recruitment scripts look like. So before we are trying to hire somebody for usability testing, there is the one important thing that you need to do is screening, which is user screening. If you say there is a questionnaire that I built up over here, there is response by 166 people. So group ordering thing. So screening questionnaires are basically all the questionnaire I would want to ask all the people before I shortlist them for usability testing. And why am I doing that? Let's say, for example, I'm making a food ordering app and I am doing a usability testing with someone who has never placed an order in their entire life. And I want to check the actual order flow right now. So how do I do that? That is not something I'm doing very right or efficiently, right? So that's why once you identify your target audience, you need to identify the same or right cohort which will specifically fit your product. So that's why I will make a screening questionnaire. I will write all the questionnaire. For example, when was the last time that you ordered your food? How many times do you order? With whom do you live? What's your city? What's your salary? Or do you prefer online ordering? Do you prefer offline ordering? Do you prefer dinner? And do you prefer takeaway? So based on this questionnaire, I would predefine all the people, shortlist them. So there are 166 people who have given the details out over here. So from that 166 people, I shortlist, hey, person number 7, 8, 9, and 14 are someone who are fitting the best of the scenario. So we would go ahead and put an interview with them. So going forward, a generic script can be, say if I'm going and putting something on a call, I would just shortlist the people. And why would people would come and give an usability testing for me? If you see over here, I have written 1,000 rupees in scenario as a monetary benefit. So you need to give some monetary benefit to your users or your customers saying that, hey, if you give me a 1 hour for usability testing, I'm going to give you a voucher of $1,500 or $1,000, whatever the company can afford it. So that in return of your time as a gesture of gratitude, I'm going to gift you something so that you make the most of your of your time rather than just coming and spending 1 hour. Nobody has 1 hour, right? So that's why you need to gift it. So a generic statement or a solution would be, while you're calling somebody, you can say that, hey John, Anirudh here. Thank you so much for filling that form. So you know what? We are making this new product which is going to solve this XYZ problem statement, and we have shortlisted you for this product. Would you spare to give an hour to use the product? Because we would want to test the product and not you. If you're comfortable, can we schedule something whenever you're comfortable on time? So if John is okay, like, okay, fine, I'm gonna do it, let's just do it. So I'm gonna ask him a right time and schedule to do that. I'm gonna schedule a call with them. So the script is basically asking your target audience or the person that you have selected whether you're comfortable doing this interview or not. You're gonna explain everything that you're going to do in that interview. So like a demo script over here, just to show that also. So let's say, hey, good evening. We are from this company. We have this platform, and then we are doing this thing. We would want to take your consent for this. We are working on a new concept. We are sharing a Google Meet link for 30 minutes, and that's what we'll be in touch. Thank you so much for your time. That's all we talk about. Cool. So we are done with the user recruitment. Till now, do we have any questions? I know it's going to be overwhelming for everybody else. So let me share this link with you guys. So here's a feed jam. I'm going to share all the notes that you see, the presentation and everything over here. So I'm going to put this in chat. So just sit back and relax. I did. Okay, I'm going to put it over here. So it's open to everybody. You can access this anytime. So all the slides that you see over here, I'm going to copy paste at the end of this session. I'm going to share all the documents also with you. So be filled. So let's move ahead, Luis. Any concerns, or we can go ahead?
Well, just so everybody knows too, we're recording the conversation and the call. So most likely in a couple of days, I will be sending it all together. So you don't have to worry too much about getting all your notes perfectly. And that will include Anirudh's contact information if you're comfortable with that. And also some of also the links that he's providing. And I have really good questions in the chat. Mary, if you would like to step in and share your questions about requirements.
Sorry, can you repeat the last statement?
I'm not just asking Mary if she would like to present her own question, or I can just mention that.
So yeah, let's just finish last two sessions and we can take questions.
Okay.
So now that we know that how do we plan the usability testing, we have this complete planning over here. We have the complete roadmap over here. Let me quickly show that again. My screen is stuck. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Then we know the how to plan the actual entire UT over here in single scenario. We defined how to actually define the scenario. We saw a few examples. We saw what do we need to do as a recruitment process. The first thing that we need to do is go ahead and write the complete screening questionnaire, call them, give an interview, and then set up the call. Now, step number 3 about capturing matrices. Let's just go ahead and talk about that. So going forward, important metrics to capture. Now, what happens is a lot of time when you're making it and usability testing, it's going to be a local product, right? Like it's not going to be taking that much amount of time to load certain thing, which is going to happen in an actual product. For example, if you're adding something to cart, that might happen quickly because it's a local prototype. It's not actually built up. But in a real scenario, while you're trying to do that, there would go and call something called API calling. There would be development overload. There would be loading. The internet would be slow and something. So that's why you can accurately capture all the metrics over here. But few of the things that you can do is success rate. So what you can do is out of 20 people, 10 people were able to do the entire task successfully. You can't talk about timing because it is local over here. But what you can talk about is the success metrics over here. Error rates. 20 out, like 10 people out of 20 could not move from this screen to that screen, and X, they were stuck at some specific error. I'm going to note it down everything. And for example, I'm going to show you a demo template over here again. So result. So let's say this is a demo template. Let me show it. Learning. So I'm going to have goal number 1, which was our scenario number 1. I'm going to have user number 1. So let's say Luis is my user number 1. So everything that Lewis talks about, positives and negatives, I'm going to note it down over here. And in my negative, I'm going to capture all the success rate, all the issues and everything. For example, success rate, error rate, and time to completion. And this is the actual template where I'm going to put everybody, user 1, 2, 3, 4, versus all the score, all the scenarios that I've written down in previously, versus all the positive and negatives that Lewis is talking about my product. So in negative, I can say 5 out of 10 people were not able to complete this task. So that is how I'm capturing that insights over here. Time to complete the task. So that here, this can be just an overview of saying 5 second, 10 second, 20 second. This can't compare to actual product, because right now Louis is just trying to figure out things and he's just trying to click on something. The moment he clicks on add to cart, it is going and add to cart quickly, very quickly. But when you're actually designing a product, when you click add to cart, you would give a call to the server. The server will bring all the data. There is something called API call. There is something called data. There is something called network throttling, which is speed of your data carrier. So there would be a lot of delay. So this can be as a point of reference. Plus 50 minus 50 is the percentage of time that can reduce in your actual time. But why do we capture time completion task over here? So that we have a reference that even in the best scenario, users are taking 5 seconds or 7 seconds to complete their task. So in worst case scenario, maybe 20, like maybe 20% more time. So maybe you need to make sure that the solution is optimized and user need to perform the task in 8 seconds or 9 seconds. So when you actually develop the product and people are taking 20 seconds to complete a task, there is an issue, my friend. You need to figure out what is that. So that is why time completion is important over here, so that you have a reference point when you talk to your developer saying that, hey, you need to make sure complete this task in 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Going forward, there is something called system utility score. Now, what does system utility score means? There is a predefined template on internet. You can use it. Let me show you what does it mean. Let me just quickly give that template to you guys. So let's say so I'm going to put demo over here. So if you see, here are predefined questionnaires and 1 to 5 point. So every time you put 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, it is something called NPS, Net Promoter Score. So it's a mechanism to take feedback from the user. So the question would be like, while using your product, how frequently will you use it? With your actual solution was complex or it was simple? How simple was it? Is easy to use? How was your technical support needed over here? Was the functionality smooth? Was irregularity in this system? So there are predefined 10 questionnaire which you need to give to the user at the end of your complete usability testing. So to calculate how efficient or how beautifully the product was designed and how easily can the user do that, because there would be some error rate which you could not capture. So at the end of the day, you will have to make sure that the user would fill this form lively in your chat or in your conversation. You can say, take a minute or two to fill this form and let me know when it's done. Because if you tell me whenever you're free, fill this form, they're not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it for you. So make sure you do it right there and then and tell them that fill it. It will just take us 2 seconds, and that would be very beneficial for you. So that were the few important metrics that you can capture. So going forward, there are something called documentation and templates that you need to take care of. Like I showed you a few demo templates over here. Like all the things that I've shown over here are few few from my existing company. So few of the templates, and I'm going to talk about what does this template mean. So define goal and scenario. So first thing that you need to do is make sure that define all the domains irrespective of what the documentation process that you took. Can be a matrix of 2:2, can be one liner, can be one below the other, can be done in Notion, can be done in Google Docs or so. You need to define that my goal number one would be to check end-to-end XYZ flow, and that would be the scenario. Complete UT script. Now, what happens is every time you talk to a user, you can't be reliable on your open-ended communication skills. You can't be like, I'm very good at communication. I can talk on the spot. I can do everything on the spot. No, you need to make sure that you write an entire script. Step number one. So let me just show you a quick example of the setup. So the setup over here, the complete performance task, the follow-up task, the wrap-up task, you will have to make sure this is a demo script. Don't use it for reference. So over here, you need to make sure that the intro script, the way you will talk to your user, hey Louis, thank you so much for your time. You will have to make sure that, hey, we are trying to test the product and not you. So feel free and relax. If possible, you can think it out loud. If you ever feel exaggerated or you're tired, we can ask for a break. So at the end of the day, it's all about testing the product and not you. So you can just relax and let me know wherever you want to take breaks. You'll have to make the user comfortable. Okay. So that's why you need to write script properly. Even the end script has to be very clear that, hey, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to share a quick SEO score template. If you would fill that, that would be very helpful to me. And at the end of the session, I'm going to send you the voucher by email. And if needed, can you also be available for iteration 2 when we optimize the solution? So you need to take that consent also. So that is what UT scripting is all about. User recruitment and survey. So like I told you, there is something called user screening, right? So before you identify the actual users, you need to make sure that you screen out that questionnaires. So that's why you need to write a survey, which you will send to all your target audience, power users, and everybody. And from them, you will filter out some users that these are the people who are good for my usability testing. UT finding positive negatives. We also saw this template right here, right now. So this was the template for that also, if we saw. Then user consent form. Yes, this is very important. I don't know why do people don't do this. So UT consent form is important because every time you share their screens on their prototype, if it's a virtual, there might be some sensitive data that might be present on their screen. So make sure that they are pretty much aware of the fact that, you have taken a consent from them for sharing their screen, and do a specific documentation from them with them. And also make sure that, hey Luis, now that you're sharing your screen, I would request you to close all the applications that are not relevant or would have some sensitive data, or turn off your notification. So that because usability testing is all about recording and then revisiting everything. So we will also record this session. So I have recording of more than like 2,500 sessions that I've done across my 5 years. So I have all of them. So we don't share with everybody, we just share it with an internal team. You need to make sure that you take that consent from the user. SEO score, we just show that template over here in Google form, which we need to take from the user, which has predefined questionnaires. So last, presentation to the stakeholders. Now presentation to the stakeholders is all up to you. How well do you want to communicate your ideas and finding to the stakeholders? To me, I would like to do Google Slides or Figma, maybe one slide about problem statement, solution, learning, enhancement, major solution. So maybe something like this, a smaller report, which I'll be communicating in the document. So let me quickly. So if these are the actual user feedback from someone, so what I'm going to do is going to just correlate it into a proper understanding like this. And maybe I can go ahead and put something like a summary. So everything that loved, everybody that hate. So I would just put in red and yellow and green color. I will present to the stakeholder saying that, hey, this is what user feel about positive things. This is what user feel about negative things. And I will have the links to all the video for my stakeholders to share. So that was all about usability testing, guys. I think it was quite overwhelming. I tried to make it quite simple. So we have 10 minutes. I'm going to take questions. I hope it was pretty simple for you to understand it. Yes, Luis?
That was fantastic. Yeah, considering that we have only 10 minutes, I would like to just bring up a couple of them. So hopefully that's going to be helpful enough. So there are questions from Mary asking about coordination with the business analyst or requirements analyst. And also there was a follow-up about how do you coordinate with product or the product team or the development? How do you get to figure out what's the workflow?
Do we have all this question written somewhere that I can take one at a time?
Sounds
In the chat board
good.
itself?
So yes, it's in the chat. So I will invite. Yeah, I just wrote it down, so it's going to be hard to get the right one. But Mary, I don't know if you're on the call. Maybe you can bring it up right away.
If you guys can like just unmute and talk and ask your question, that would be lovely. Like we can have a conversation also. Would you want to do that? Anyone? Okay.
I do have a question.
Hey Hannah, hi.
Hey, thank you so much for your sharing. It's really helpful. And my question is, I wonder how much time do we need to take to finish an entire usability test, since usually we do the agile process. It's like 2 weeks sprint, 2 weeks sprint. I feel like we don't really have a lot of time to do a usability test with all the documents and all the preparation and all the and also summarize all the results. So I wonder how much time do we need to take to do the usability test.
Right. That's a very good question and a common question that a lot of people ask me. So on an average, I've identified that once you are very much experienced as a UX designer and you are pretty clear about all the goals and everything, you can set your own timelines. Whether I need to complete this within a week or a 2 or a month, that can go up to 3 months also, not an issue. But on an average, the best case scenario is 3 weeks. You need to spend 3 weeks for usability testing minimum, because that depends on a lot of factors also, whether the availability of the users, are all the users available on the same day or some other days, or are some people are available only on weekends, some are available on next weekend, next month. But to be on a safer side, nothing less than 3 weeks. If you want to compromise below 3 weeks, you're not doing it efficiently. This is what I have learned from my past experience. We try to rush in a lot of other things, but you need to calm down, sit and go through all the solution, go through all the planning statement and everything. And I sometimes take a complete week to just write the scenarios, because I want to dig deeper into my problem statement and identify the statement which I need to validate. Because if you do some scenarios which are very generic, which would not have some monetary conversation or user funnels over there, so you're not gonna identify the actual issues that's gonna present in your app, right? So that's why make sure minimum 3 weeks, and rest it depends on your company. If you are willing to spare 3 months, more than happy to do that. The more amount of time that you spend with user, the less money you waste going forward. So yeah, I hope
Um,
that answers your question, Hannah.
I have a follow-up question. It's like, so because if I'm doing a product like an ongoing product, how frequent we need to do the usability test? It's like after the first usability test, we find some things we have to adjust, and then do we need to do another usability test again?
Mhm. So it depends on the severity or the how serious the issue is for now. In our company, what happens is a lot of time, in my documentation, I've written this point very well, that at the end of the day, we do ask user that will after first iteration, when we change the complete solution, will you be comfortable to come back and test this again? A lot of time there's a need to do that, because if the solution is very complex and you're not very sure, if there are minor changes in terms of a flow, in terms of changing a card layout, in terms of making something accessibility easy, so you don't need to do it again with the users. You can do it internally with your stakeholders and your team members. So it always depends on the product and the actual solution that you're solving. So you can take an internal call with the stakeholders. Do we actually need users to validate this again, or we are clear that users are going to behave same in the way that we have learned right now? Because to be very honest, first 5 users are going to give you 90% of your accessibility issues in the very first place. Rest everybody is going to just repeat what first 5 users have said. So if you identify them and solve again, make sure to run an iteration with the same 5 users. So that's why I like to call it iteration 1 and iteration 2 with the same set of users. Now it depends on your company and your needs, and it's quite subjective also. So definitely, I personally recommend to do it if it's very severe. If it's smaller things, that can be solved internally also. Thank you, Pramod.
Thank you so much, Anari.
Welcome. Any other questions? That was a very awesome question.
And would you like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
begin?
Yeah, Sam, please go ahead.
Hello everyone. Yeah, good evening from here. Yeah, I have two questions, please. So in the sprint, in a US sprint process, it's always short. The days where you used to like do your research, do your edit, and every other thing you have to do in that process. So, can you go through all this process? Can you go through all this usability process in a very short time, like in a sprint process?
Okay. So the answer to that question is pretty simple. I don't want to complicate it. That, like I told you, usability testing will take its own space and its own time, and it depends on a lot of factors. And I would not want you to go and rush into it. The best thing that you can do is there is something called FMCG, which is faster growing consumer paid product. So a lot of you might be concerned about the fact that we are in a rapid growing phase. My company do not have a lot of time. So what do I do? Well, simple thing, man. You design it fast, develop it fast, make it live fast, learn from your mistake and repeat, and just change the mistake quickly. So you can be reliable on your data analytical tools. There is something called user experience, there is clever tabs, there is Google Analytics, there is InspectLab. There are so many tools, there are heat map tools that will actually record the entire session of the users. So every time you want to do that, you can learn from it and reiterate and do it quickly if you don't have enough time. So, but there has to be some way where you identify your problems and solve it. Because if you don't identify and solve it, you're not making an optimal solution for your end users. And that is the whole concept about MVP, minimal viable product in market right now. So I hope that solves your question, Sam.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome, welcome. Any other questions?
You like asking that?
We have a lot of hand. Yeah.
I guess I will ask another one. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. Hi, T here, UX as well. So I know a lot of us encounter these kind of problems, and the scenario is to identify and actually get time with the actual users when we have these stakeholders in the business thinking they know the users, and we're always blocked to actually get the users' actual times, whether it's a political reason, budget reason. Where do you find we draw the line, or how far do we push it in order to us to get actual user testing from the actual users?
Great. That's a very awesome question. See, first of all, it depends on the amount of authority that you have as a stakeholder, as a UX designer. Because as a junior, I've been through this situation. I know there are some accessibility issue present in my company. I raise a voice, but that did not happen because I don't have that much amount of authority. And if you have enough amount of authority to take it happen, make sure that you take it and put it forward in terms of stakeholder and say, we are not going ahead without solving this issue, which is what I can do today. So if there are some issues, I say, push the development to the next sprint, I can make it go live. So there is a complete cycle that I take care of. Without my approvals, there are no designs that go live in my company right now for the features that I'm doing. So it depends on your seniority or your authority, but try to best to push it to the users because you know that is the right thing for the users. So you are either doing right thing for the users and indirectly you are doing right thing for your company. So do try to push it on as you can do that. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks.
Welcome.
Do you have time for one more? Or?
I have enough time. You can go ahead, please.
Okay. So I have a question about like biases and how do you balance your power users against your other sort of everyday users in your usability testing so that you don't skew your UT results to one or two people. While also managing like your power users are going to be very competent in the space, and you really want that feedback versus a new user or a naive user.
Awesome. That's a very awesome question, and we need to take care of it. And if we say there are multiple methods to solve multiple problem statement, each and every method has some drawbacks. Now, cognitive biases is a drawback of usability testing, which you need to address very well. So the answer to this question is that, first of all, we need to admit that as a human, we are born with our own mental biases. We see things differently. And definitely my mental bias towards something is going to be different than yours. So we need to admit the fact that that is something that we're going to experience. So what happens over here is that while we make an cohort, we divide the users in such a way that everybody who is technically savage comes into a single group. Everybody who is not technically savage or don't have any idea about my product would lie into some other group. That's why I told there are two groups: target audience, power users, and new users. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take decision critically to the solution or the end-to-end flow based on my cohort number one. So all the cohort will be predefined and said that cohort number one will be taken decision based on their learning for XYZ flow. Cohort number two will help us identify how easily the accessibility of solution is easy to understand. Cohort number two will actually explain us how much time does it take for a new user to learn the actual solution and implement it. So it depends. So that's why user recruitment is a very difficult task over here. And that mostly takes 1 week or 2 weeks of your entire process. And that happens parallelly. So yes, there's no way to reduce, or there's no way to remove the mental biases. The best thing that you can do is make your questions so simple and straightforward that the scenarios are pretty simple. Like just be yourself and do whatever you want to do. Just make sure that think out loud. You don't give some examples where user would want to do something else. Disable all the hotspot on your prototype. You don't want user click randomly and then you see the screens over there. So you are forcing user to click somewhere else where the user is not doing that. So the best you can do is something like this. Keep simple, straightforward question. Don't prompt them. A lot of time when I take usability testing, user like, so now what do I do? Now do I click over here? Do I click over there? So the answer to that question is that hey, you can do whatever you feel like doing that. I can answer this question. I can take all the question at the end of your session. So we let them do it. And I make sure that I reiterate them every time that we are testing the product and not you. So there are no right and wrong questions. So the best we can do is just communicate and like welcome the mental biases and handle it quickly. I hope that solves your question, Alan. Okay, thank you, man. Any other questions? So,
or well, we're almost getting close to the hours. So
Hi, final question. If
yeah,
I've got a final question, if there's time.
Sure.
Thanks, Anirudh, for indulging. The question is basically that if you're doing your test before development, obviously you're presenting a prototype. What kind of tools do you typically use, and what kind of detail do you go into, especially if the product is a bit complex and you've got a lot of data input and things like that?
Right. So first thing I personally like to use for mobile, there is like Marvel app. So there are new products that are coming, usabilitytesting.com, userzoom.com. There are like a couple of which you can find. But I personally use something called Marvel and Figma itself, because what happens is if there's an end-to-end product, you know that the journey is going to be very huge and tedious. So how do I solve that problem statement? I break it into smaller journey. So if I will show you my prototype, that would have flow number 1, flow number 2, flow number 3, flow number 4. So I will break the entire journey into smaller tasks, and I would have smaller scenario for that smaller products, so that the user is not exhausted in completing the entire task. For example, let's say you want to order biryani or you want to order pizza for your party tonight. How are you going to do that? So it's a task of discovering pizza or a burger on my homepage. So discovery issue. So flow number 1. Flow number 2 would be, how would you decide what you want to order? That would be discovery stage number 2. So that's why break it into granular level and make sure to push it to the users. And the best you can do, like for example, there is auto animate in Figma itself. So whatever the best you can suit, depending on your timelines and everything, the best you can make out of it, the realistic you make it, it's better for the users, because that will try to match to the actual prototype or the live product that you're going to make after some weeks or months or so. So yeah, I hope, Pramod, that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thanks a lot.
Welcome. So awesome. So I'm quickly just scanning to the chat board. If I find some very difficult question, I'm going to take it. Otherwise, I have my link. You have Luis over here. You can like revert back to me. I'm hyper active on LinkedIn. Like you message me at 2 a.m., you message me at 3 a.m. I'm going to ping you. Like Luis is already shaking his head over there. So message me anything around anything, but just around design thing. That's the only thing I know I'm very good at. I'm not good at relationship or anything else. So definitely anything around design, UX, UI, I'm pretty much your guy to answer your question. And I would take it with all the enthusiasm. Like I would just get you on one call and explain you how practically it is done. So I'm not a kind of theoretical guy who would talk theory. So yeah, so that's all for the day. Thank you so much for showing up for your 1 hour. I hope to see you again, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you soon. Take care.